Today is February 26th, 2014, and this is the MCBS Hour. We are recorded live in front of a virtual and a live studio audience, and we're coming to you from Full Sail University campus in sunny Winter Park, Florida. Can you believe it's Wednesday again? I can't. I am so very excited. And today we've got a whole brand new format. I actually get to sit at my booth and look at people. We have people in the booth. Yay! And you can hear them. How's it going in the booth, people?
Oh, happy to be here, boy. This has
going
a
awesome.
whole new element to the show.
It actually really does.
It's very cozy.
Well, once we've got our first couple of advertisers, we'll be able to upgrade to a much larger building. And next week, I'll wear deodorant. That's my promise to you. Every week, we'll have a different group of faculty members in the booth so that we can rotate through. Our faculty has become so big, it's hard to get around to introducing all 700 of us at one time. So today, we're going to focus on the people in the booth. And we'll start with Janelle, who's right across the table from me. Hey, Janelle.
Hey, everybody. I am Janelle Ferrer. I'm the course director for Media Communications Project Management, and really excited to be here today.
Excellent. And next to you, Emily Ray.
That's right, Jason. I feel like it was pretty strategic, you placing Janelle and I in the booth together. It's like going to be a WWE event. Let's get ready to rumble. In fact, I actually went to kickboxing right before this session to prepare. I want Janelle to know that I'm ready.
And I went to CrossFit this morning, so I'm good to go.
Sweet.
I slept in and had a donut. This is not looking good. Well, also in the booth with us, the audio magician Robert himself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's MCBS Hour. Looking forward to all the good stuff we're going to be talking about. And yes, let's continue.
And with that, I'd like to make sure everybody realizes that this is not the only faculty that's here with us at this radio hour. We have people all over the place from up and down the program. And they are going to chime in as we get going eventually when they have something very, very, very exciting to say. But I'm going to cut all of their exciting things off right now because I am pretty darn excited about what is coming next. We have flipped things around so much that we're not even going to start with media and the news. We're going directly to Kathy's Corner. And Kathy's Corner today is pretty outrageously cool. I don't even know how to start. I'm just so excited. Last week was the Hall of Fame at Full Sail University, and we had some of the heaviest hitters that graduated from our university come back and receive awards acknowledging how amazing they are. And we have one of those people in the virtual studio audience with us, and I will let Kathy take it over from here.
Yay! All right. It's great to be. I was saying that it's fantastic to be here because really exciting today. Kathy's Corner, sometimes I really try hard to jazz it up, but a lot of times I end up having to tell you some administrative stuff, which is really cool and exciting, but it's really hard to be cool with that kind of stuff sometimes. But today, I brought somebody who brings the cool. So we're really, really honored and excited to have Kim Alpert in the house today. Ooh, Kim Alpert. So excited to have you here today, Kim.
I'm here.
And you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Kim.
Can you hear me?
And we have Kim, and as you can see here, Kim was one of our Hall of Fame honorees, inductees last week during Hall of Fame, and we are thrilled to have Kim here today because she I believe is extremely inspiring for you guys in terms of the kinds of work that she does. She calls herself a creative strategist, which really sounds to me a lot like what we talk about our media strategists. So I'll let her get into that some more in a bit. But we're really excited to have her here. So what we're going to do is Jason and I are going to kind of tag team it, shooting questions at Kim for a bit, and then we are going to turn it over to our studio audience and especially our students. We want you guys to be able to step up and ask questions of our own Kim Alpert. So, are you there, Kim? Let's test your mic.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Well, I, for some reason, am not hearing Kim. So, Jason, I'm going to ask for your help to throw these questions out and help facilitate this conversation. The first one I want to throw out to you, Kim, is just to tell us about your journey from a Full Sail DoD graduate to where you are today with Make Amazing.
Hold the phone?
That was an intense ring.
That was intense.
Is there a call-in question?
Apparently you have 10 seconds to answer.
Oh my God, I didn't make it in time for the bell.
We'll
Are
let
we
you
good?
we'll let you try again. Go right ahead.
Okay. I think it was a pretty interesting journey, and coming out of DADDM and leaving Full Sail, we're trained with such a large arsenal of different creative outlets, different programs, different ideas. And for me, I found myself, are we good?
I'm sorry. I think we've
I
either
hear so much talking.
we've got an unmuted somebody. I don't have access to the panel, and I'm so sorry about this, Kim. But could somebody?
No, that's okay. I just didn't know if I should talk over whatever's happening or not.
Usually it's a good idea. One time I heard somebody giving medical advice about pharmaceuticals, and they didn't realize they weren't muted. So if we could talk over anything like that, that would be ideal.
Okay, great. If that was good medical advice, I would like to know it. So yeah, as I was saying, we leave as graduates with such a large arsenal of training. Everything from web and video and print and packaging. There's so many different facets, and like most graduates, I entered the world in the production world, and I did a lot of design, a little bit of development, a lot of motion graphics and video, and found kind of my path led for me to kind of move into more creative management, into a creative director, and help some of the large thinking and big ideas for brands, and then moving into strategy to really develop those ideas and how they would communicate over time. And time was really, I think for me, the biggest piece of creative that I fell in love with, being able to do interactive over time, communication over time, aesthetics over time, and really be able to build experiences over time in the public avenue for advertising.
Wow, that sounds great. You know what? I'd be interested to hear, and I bet some of the listeners as well. When you were in Full Sail, you gathered up a toolbox full of skills and whatnot, and you took those out with you. And we talk to our students a lot about how much you learn when you're actually in the field. What would you say the balance is between what you learned in school versus what you learned out in the real world, so to speak?
Oh, I think the best analogy, I guess, that I could give, and then maybe I'll get more specific from there. And I use this analogy even now when I'm talking to, different clients or different partners that I'm going to be working with, and, still having mentors and really high-level creatives that I still look to work with, is I feel like I have this big, like my hands, I have like this big set of knives, right? And I feel like at Full Sail, I came in and I just had like these like dull carbon rods, and then I left there with like sharp knives. And each job, each experience, I started getting those little teeny tiny like serrated blades where it just became sharper and sharper, and like these kind of fractal iterations of honing in each one of these skills a little bit more and a little bit tighter kind of happened. So I mean, it really, the foundation that I got from Full Sail is, it's unparalleled to anything else. I can't imagine, having any other opportunity to have learned the variety of things that I did, and to really understand learning in a really great way. I feel like they really taught me, if I want to learn something, to go and find out as much as I can and be able to say where I'm stuck, and, come to the people who, can help me find the answers, even if they don't have them, and be like, all right, well, how do we figure this out? And that's something that served me really well throughout my career, to be able to be like, okay, I've done all this research and I've got all these things and this is what I want to do. And now I can ask the questions and not just, kind of come in and be like, what does this mean? When I could have just Googled it and gotten myself to a place, I want that wall to be as far as possible before I hit it. And that attitude is something that I really fostered while I was there, because I wanted to get as much as I could out of the experience. So I wanted to push as far as I could. If we were doing something where there was programming, I would, try to take it as far as I could and get as much out of it.
Right, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. How many times while doing that did you find yourself being asked to do something you were just completely unprepared for?
There was nothing I was prepared for coming,
Right.
coming into full field. My mom says all the time, we sent her to college knowing, how to check email or, play a game in DOS, and then we got her back and she could build anything. And, and that's my mom, so she thinks I could build anything, but that's not true. It really, it's all of the pieces for me. I grew up in a time, and it definitely, it's changed so much, my age versus just a few generations below me, or one generation below me, where, I did one piece of nonlinear editing because I worked in the AV department in high school. That was the only experience I ever had with video editing, because you just weren't, there was no iMovie. You weren't doing video editing in your computer. Very few people had personal computers. I was lucky enough to grow up in a home where we had Prodigy and we had the internet, but it wasn't as pervasive as it is now. So for me, it was everything.
Hey, can you guys hear me? This is Kathy.
Yep.
For sure.
Okay, great. I think we've pulled ourselves together here. So, Kim, when I heard you talked about one life. I was really intrigued with that. What do you mean by one life?
Oh, I love talking about One Life, and it actually came out of a joke, because when Second Life came out, and I don't know if you guys know what Second Life is, like the virtual world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like, that's like a totally known thing now. When Second Life came out, I started being like, dude, One Life. I want to connect with people in like my regular life, one life, first life first, second life second. And it kind of stemmed out of that as a reality, because to me, I just live one life. Like when I go to films, or I go to art shows, or I go to see music, typically it's all really interwoven into the things that I'm passionate about. And I'm lucky enough where I'm at a place in my career where the clients and the things that I'm doing interweave with my interests and, the kind of passions that I have for, the lifestyle that I live. And it really is something where, I don't punch out at 5 o'clock. Typically I'm thinking about campaigns, when I'm in the shower, or, if I'm going somewhere and I'm looking at advertising and I have a critical eye every time I see TV. I'm thinking about like, oh, look at these lower thirds. Like, how did they do that? Or, why is that there? Or, why did this advertiser choose to put do a media buy and put a spot during the, I was just watching like the Big Kennel show, the Westminster Dog Show. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, why would these advertisers choose the Westminster Dog Show? And then started thinking about, well, who else is watching this? And, how are they qualifying this as, their media buy?
Right. So
it never goes away.
yeah, and it's interesting because it doesn't sound like that it drains you, because it sounds like work is always with you, but it doesn't drain you. It seems to fuel you.
Yeah, well, it's fun. I think for me, being able to, I open up and have the conversations and ask the questions, so it isn't really draining. I look at, my coworkers and like the colleagues that I have and the friends that I have are a lot of folks that are in the industry in one way or another, whether they're designers or developers or, musicians or PR people, and all those folks, we talk about those things, and I'll ask them about what they're up to, and it's interesting. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it's just a part of your DNA, and I just think that's you don't live to work, you work to live kind of thing. So really inspiring. One question we wanted to ask you too was, how do you describe a creative strategist, and how did you come to that title?
Well, it's definitely, I'm not the inventor of that title. I certainly don't want to take credit for it. It's something that was kind of out there and a more emerging thing right now than ever. And for me, it came out of wanting to be a creative, but at the same time, wanting to have strategic thinking be an inherent part of what I was doing as a creative. It's being a creative director and coming up with really high level and wild ideas and campaign ideas is the best. Like, it's totally fun, it's totally outrageous, and it's great. But being able to be more of a critical thinker and add, some time and some metrics and some kind of thought and insight behind those things, and bringing those insights is really key to be able to qualify these kind of wild, outlandish maybe ideas and kind of push the boundaries a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper with brands, get them to kind of open up a little bit more, open their dialogue, be more honest with their consumer, and kind of show who they are and really market what they do through who they are. That became really exciting to me. And I realized while I was a creative director that brands were really responding to that thinking, and they were more willing to take chance and take a little bit more risk if they understood what the insights were that were driving those ideas. Yeah.
So do you kind of have to sort of help them find out who they are in a way?
Sometimes, it's really a matter of working with them to, figure out, who they were. Because a lot of times, everything moves so quickly. The second that you define yourself, you've already changed because that moment is gone. And,
Right.
A lot of times brands will do, ethnographic research and things like that, aspirational research. And by the time the research decks hit the brand, they're already a year old, 6 months to a year old. So in that amount of time, there's been new technology, there's been changes in pop culture. So there's already inherently things that might be missing or directions that may have changed. So, bringing some of that insight and working with them, especially in the digital spectrum, like what's happening right now and how do we apply the history and the legacy into the present.
Right, exactly. How do you weave those together? So I have more questions, but Jason, do you have any you want to throw her way?
No, I'm having a great time just listening. And
You're just sitting back.
I
Okay.
think we have Janelle watching the chat window, so when students or other faculty have questions, she'll be able to chime in with that.
All right. I just wanted to let me just ask you one more question, Kim, and then we'll turn it over to our students and faculty. One question I had for you was about the portfolio, the Media Communications Portfolio project. And as I described to you, we have these students meet at actually in this class 5 times during their program, but basically those are benchmarks by which they are building their portfolio, and they should be building throughout all of the courses that they're taking in the program. And so they need to walk out of here with something that really inspires their potential employer about who they are, what they can do, where they want to go, things like that. What advice do you have for them with a portfolio project like that? And what would impress, make amazing?
Oh, wow. I think there's this really incredible balance that I think I learned with my reel, which was my kind of, my calling card and my portfolio when I got out, which is between the technical ability and showing what I can do and the mindfulness to kind of the aesthetic and the brand to kind of integrate little pieces of who I am. And I was, there were moments where I met with some pretty impressive kind of high-level folks real early on in my career, and I was taken aback by how interested they were in my art. And for me, in the advertising world, I kind of have, I have my art life, and then I have, my kind of corporate advertising life. And I was really impressed, and it kind of was like an eye-opening moment that they were interested in seeing these like kind of edgy, avant-garde experimental films. And I remember thinking, well, why am I not putting these two things together? And it made me kind of go back and then change out a bunch of stuff in my reel. So it was, I'm not just going to show all like, the hot interface design and the motion graphics. I'm also going to show some of this kind of like weird, edgier, politically kind of gendery kind of experimental stuff, and kind of sew the two together to really make something that fits me and that's digestible and not, not too in your face, but
right.
That kind of peppered that together. And it really made me understand that people really do hire, 60% ability and 40% personality a lot of Because you can always train somebody to have more skills from a technical perspective, but you can't necessarily train somebody to be a better human. And
absolutely,
that's been a really awesome thing to see appreciated in the industry and appreciated at Full Sail. I mean, that's
absolutely.
I can't even count the amount of hugs that I got last week. I'm still recovering from how much love there was there, you know. And I want to circle back a little bit to the thing about one life, and I think that, thinking back on it, that really, it stems out of Full Sail, because, my friends that I made there, that I still have now, and some of us all in different degree programs. I have a really good friend who is in animation who works in gaming now. And he used to walk to my house, or I'd walk to his house with a full pot of coffee. And we would sit, and one of us would talk while the other one would work, depending on who had the big project that was due. And we would still be talking about, what we were learning and what we were doing. And that hasn't changed now. It's 11 years later, and we're still talking about, like, what we're working on and what we're doing. And I think, if you've made the decision to go to Full Sail, you have such a huge variety of places you can go for education. You probably love what you're doing. So not being afraid to just embrace that as, like, this is your life, like, and you love it, and just, live it out of every, possible moment that you can, and seize it, because you can, like, you absolutely can.
Absolutely. One more question. I'm sorry. One more thing I was going to ask you before I hand it over, kind of along those lines, was I was thinking about what advice you have for creative collaboration, kind of along the lines you were talking about, and how often do you have to do this virtually? Do you work with, always just people in Chicago, or how do you work with people on a virtual basis?
I work with people a lot virtually. I work with some Chicago folks, but my core team is spread all over the country. So they're, it's not like they're in a room and I'm out of the room. We're all kind of all over the place. And I think that's been really good for idea sharing, and everyone has their kind of secret sauce that is, like, their thing that they do that's better than everything else. And I think an important part is, respecting somebody's expertise for what they bring to the table, and understanding when to fall on a sword for something. So for me as a creative, I work with a really incredible UX guy, Jason Elliott. And whenever we collaborate together, as a creative, I'll be like, well, these buttons should be like this, or this color, what about here? But he's a UX guy, and, like, he's an amazing UX guy. And when he says, like, this is what makes the most sense, this is the current, this is the best usability, and he'll tell me why, and I will never fall on a sword for something from a design perspective, because I know and I trust that he's right. And, if I get to prove him wrong someday, that'd be great. But I've chosen to this team and to have, people that I can really trust to do these things and to own their element, especially when it's something that when you don't know that well. And I think as, designers and aesthetic folks, we work with a lot of tech people. And I think, it's an important thing to respect their expertise, but at the same time, give them just enough challenge, to understand that they should grow, and that they should be able to push back on you as a designer, if something is, quote unquote impossible, which means it'll just take a really long time, what are the solutions? And I think that's a really big thing to cultivate, is how do you become a person who doesn't say no, but says, but what if we? And always,
absolutely.
Is always looking for another way around the obstacle.
Well said. Very inspirational. Thanks, Kim. With that, I know we've got people chomping at the bit to ask you questions. So have we got any students to start with that have any questions? And if you want to speak up, go right ahead. Otherwise, put them in the chat window. Juliana, I know you're just dying there. Go for it, Juliana. And introduce yourself, Juliana.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Kim. I had the privilege and the honor to have met you last week. And I have to say that you are such an inspiration, especially by being such a crazy creative person. And like you said, just overall great human being. Like, it's so clear that that's who you are. And I really appreciate that, and I honor that. So I'm obviously in the program. I'm on my 9th month, I think. Time's flying by, I'm not sure. But I've been working as a project for the past 5 years. And I've dealt a lot with, creative directors, graphic designers, developers, QAs, UX, you call it. And what actually led me to Full Sail was the fact that I wanted to be more on the creative side and really be the one telling the story and coming up with these solutions and, calling the shots. So it's so great to hear from you. I'm so glad that we're actually able to have you here. So on to my questions. Melinda Gates just tweeted, well, actually it was few hours ago, and you retweeted. That's how I found it. Why do you think that there aren't a lot more women in tech jobs? And coming from a digital marketing background, I would say that 90% of the people that I worked with were men. What do you think that is?
I think there's a variety of reasons. I think that I think we're seeing a huge shift right now, and it's awesome. I think historically, math and science were always subjects where I think women were intimidated to participate, where it was not cultivated as a strength from a very young age. And I think we're seeing a ton of outreach and support and conversations about those things right now. And a lot of people talk about that glass ceiling, and it's moving up and it's going to shatter. It really was, the inspiration, and it's my honor to come back and talk to this school and to see so many women, to see so many young women pursuing their passion and to see so many young women on campus. It was incredible to me. And it's one of those things where, I see the numbers out in the industry changing, and then to go and be back at Full Sail. And I mean, I am telling you that compared to when I was there, that was a lot of ladies. It's so inspiring because I know that it's this new crop of thinkers and communicators, and women bring such a different voice to the table. There's a different set of experiences there. Like any minority, there's a different set of experiences there. There's a different, there's a different funnel of decision making that we go through to do things, and it's a really important voice to be heard. And all I can say is, let's not look backwards. Let's just look forwards. I think that's the biggest thing. And I've never looked around a room and, often in the room I've been the only woman, whether it's in my hobbies, in my personal life, or in my professional life. And, I never really think about it from that perspective, because the second that I start thinking about it from that perspective, then the other people in the room do too. So, I always try to just keep the playing field very level. I steer conversations away when people want to talk about, sexualizing a conversation or anything like that, because to me it really, it's not that interesting, to be honest. I think the differences are as big as we want to make them, or as small as we want to make them at any moment.
Absolutely. Juliana, do you have some more questions for now?
I do.
Yeah, go for it.
So what would you say that are your favorite kinds of clients and favorite kinds of projects to take on? Like, what are some of your favorites?
My favy faves?
Mm-hmm.
Favy faves. I mean, my favorite kind of client is one that knows that they need it and is willing to admit that they don't know it. When they're just like, like, we know that we don't know about branding, but we know what we like and we trust you, and let's go together. I really like working collaboratively, so I really like when the client is involved. I'd rather have a bunch of very small iterations and revisions than have like a huge amount of like starting over. So I like clients that are a little bit more involved, which is, I think, different than a lot of creatives. I think they like to kind of go and, especially some designers I know that are really, very, very talented, and they like to kind of go off and like really fine tune something before they show it. And I really respect that. My process is definitely one that's a little bit more transparent. I'll show something that's kind of half finished to get feedback. And I can take the pain of that, because when you show something to a client that's not fully there, they're going to just see the parts that aren't fully there. So you have to kind of coach them and push them. As far as my favorite kind of project, I love when, there's no particular type of project, but when the light bulb goes off for the client and they see the change in their business, that's the moment for me. When they get, the message on Twitter or Facebook, if they're, utilizing social media for, outreach for new business, and all of a sudden they just landed themselves a client that's like this awesome thing for them, and they come back and they tell me about it. Those are the moments. Or when we're talking about, brand strategy over time, and they're realizing that they had never considered the difference between, spring and summer for the seasonality of their products communication. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, we could be doing this. And like those moments, especially with, with folks in digital and they're not necessarily that savvy, and then the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh my God, like I love that. It's just, it's fun because I'm so passionate about it. And then, they have these little passions that kind of flourish.
Very cool. Could I ask one more?
Yeah, one more, and then Jeanette has a question, so we want to get to her after that. That's okay. One more, Juliana.
Really quick. So
That's
when you're
okay.
going through your discovery process, when you're actually getting your brief from your client and you're doing that kickoff and you're asking all your questions, what are some questions that you ask? So as far as, according to their briefs, like how do you get to know the client?
Oh, wow. I mean, they're all so different, and a lot of that, those types of meetings, if you can be in the room, always try to be in the room, because, people will say with their body language things that, are so telling, and I always like it in kickoff meetings to show like a huge breadth of work. I like, if they, especially if we're talking about web properties and stuff, to not even look at necessarily just competitor websites, but like, where do your people shop? Where do they go? Are they going to REI? Are they going to Patagonia? Like, what kind of person are they? Because there are subtle differences between that, are they Crate and Barrel? There's personality differences that are really subtle between like where these people are shopping or what they're doing or how they feel. And you can start kind of getting an idea of where the guardrails are as far as, where their brand is looking to go, because everybody has like a future idea, but it's really hard to articulate that. So I always think that it's really good that's something instead of asking, I just kind of go through kind of showing different advertising things or brand things and getting reactions and kind of cataloging those reactions to fill in the blanks.
Thanks so much, Juliana, for your questions. I know you've been really looking forward to having a chat with Kim. And Jeanette, we want to hear from you. What are your questions?
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So you said that you have, people that you collaborate with all over the country. My question is, what is the best way that you found to communicate and share media and things, like a video or a story, board or something like that? Because being an online student, and we had a project this past week, and we were all over the place. One was in Washington State, the other one was in Orlando. I was here in Hallandale, so it was like 3 different schedules, like 2 different time zones. So it was kind of crazy, and we worked it out. But our biggest issue was sharing media, finding a way to share it, and then everyone being able to get it.
Yeah. I think workflow like that, everybody has tools that they prefer, and I think that that's still something that's evolving. I think, I've seen and worked on everything from like hyper custom, like SharePoint solution systems to like, just rocking out some Basecamp and making it happen. We do a lot of stuff with Google Docs, and it's really a lot of it. We're old folks, so we, we use a lot of email. And like, no doubt, like we use a lot of email and PDFs, and Evernote's got some really good tools for sharing screenshots, and Google makes a lot of document sharing and calendar sharing stuff, really, really streamlined. They've got some project management stuff and waterfall stuff that's pretty nice. But there's never going to be one perfect solution. I'm still, and the robot hasn't been made yet. I think the perfect solution is a human. So you kind of need to kind of delegate, like, who's going to be our project manager, and then they have to kind of own the schedule, and kind of create the schedule. And if it's, if you're just going to FTP files to each other and they're big files, like, get a Dropbox or get a server FTP and just use that. And have that person, the human kind of, going through and delegating and running the schedule. And, I always think that project managers and producers, like, those are the most indispensable people in the world, because they allow us as creatives to have the space to do what we do and not be overwhelmed by looking too far, into the future, or, too backwards into what just happened. They kind of keep our eye on the prize and give us the space to do what we want. So all you future PMs and producers out there, you guys are the best.
Yes.
And love your PMs. Say thank you to your PMs, like, all the time.
I think Janelle might have paid her to say that. I don't know.
I didn't. She had no idea, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, people make fun of me a lot because I'm always saying thank you and I'm always saying I'm sorry. And I think that that's just one of the things that I've learned. Like, if I feel like I've done something wrong, I'm going to apologize for it, and just, living with a lot of appreciation and gratitude, and understanding that other people's time is really valuable, even if it's someone who's, just an administrative person, not just an administrative, but, working administrative and not on the creative team or not on the tech team, their time is still uber valuable. Like, they still have their home and their family and their life that they need to get back to. So if I'm asking them for something, it's just as if I was asking the owner of the company for something. They're just as important, and they're adding value. And that, you can be critical about process as much as you want, but, the gatekeepers who are doing that job, it's a really awesome job. People that work as, like, amazing producers, they blow my mind. They really do.
Kim, we actually have... we have one more question, and it's actually from a DAD student who is just a guest speaker with us today, and her name is Katie O'Dare. Did you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, Katie? No.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay,
we can hear you,
excellent.
Katie.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Great. So, Kim, I also had the pleasure of seeing you last week, and I feel like lightning has struck on this business I started called Mise on Leaves, and I'm grabbing the lightning bolt and I'm charging forward with all the force in my being. But how do I direct that energy into a specific position within an agency? Like many DAD students, I'm learning so many skills. I want to do everything. How do I hone that in, all that power from the tool belt?
How do you hone it in? Well, what is the thing where lightning is striking?
Well, actually, we're going to do a little spot on it after this, but I started as a portfolio piece, a terrarium business and terrarium jewelry, and then it ended up becoming a real business, and it's been picked up on Instagram pretty well. And let me, are you able to see on the, I'll send you the,
yeah.
Okay.
Send it to me. I love terrariums.
Cool. So there's a link to my Instagram, which is like very visual of everything. And then here's my main. And then here's how I feel right now, which is a collage I made of an ex-girlfriend of mine, but I'm still good friends with, so, you know, all positive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds, and I want to know if I'm right here, that you've got this product that's kind of like a startup that you're involved in, and it's kind of starting to create some critical traction, but then you're also kind of looking at your skill set and considering kind of agency life and where does that part of your career progress?
Correct. Yeah, like what's the position for me in an agency, like as an end goal with, so many assorted skills. The toolbox is getting full, but, I want to shine as like something great in an agency position. And when I interned at one, I wasn't sure what my spot was. Like art director, well, I was also really into the photo studio stuff. And then I was really surprisingly helpful with traffic. And, I just feel like the world is so big. Like how do I find where I can stand tall?
I think that's going to be an ever evolving thing. I think I still question that now, and I don't foresee that ever really ending. There's no one linear track. They say, and it might be a Sheryl Sandberg thing, but there's no more corporate ladder. It's kind of this corporate lattice where you're moving around from side to side, and maybe you'll move for a little while on this lateral move, but that's going to get you up to this other thing that you decided that you want to do. And I think I'm kind of a good example of that, where I started out with just doing design and production and graphics, but now have moved into strategy, where a lot of strategists, now in the industry, they started out as planners. So they have no experience in the production world, as builders. And I think for me, that's something that's made me kind of stand out, and it's been very advantageous for me. And I think, you have to kind of figure out, what feels right and trust your gut, and find someone who's doing that work and ask to shadow them, ask them about their day, and if they're, a good person for you to kind of look to and kind of maybe mentor you, or just, even just have coffee with you, they'll help you figure out if that's kind of the road that you want to keep going down. And, balancing your passion at the same time, you'll figure it out. I know that you will. It's just one of those things with me and my art, sometimes it'll be months and months and I won't make anything, and I'll get super down about it. And then, lightning will strike, and I'll be like, oh my God, I have this idea, I've got to make it. And I'll stay up an entire weekend and just,
Oh God. Yeah. It's incredible how it's so attached to the whole being, like when I'm creating and when I'm not. Like it kind of is everything for me. The whole experience is just what I'm making. Sometimes it feels like. But then I got to remember to go out and experience it too. So that totally answers my question. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Kim, I think you have your next career is going to be a career coach. So get ready for that.
Oh boy.
You seem to have a natural ability for that. So thank you so very much for your time with our most important folks, which are our students. And really appreciate it. And like I said, you're welcome to hang out with us through the end of the show. I think we've just got this, probably just going to do this one more segment with Katie and then wrap up. But really appreciate your time. And just have a fabulous day. Hang out if you want to.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna
And if you haven't already,
roaring applause.
Yeah, that's how many people are here.
Yeah, wow.
If you haven't already, make sure to follow Kim Alpert at on Twitter at Kim Alpert. And now it's time for Media in the News. Except we're not really going to do Media in the News. I just wanted to show off this new little slide that we have.
It is really nice.
Instead, I would like to kind of preface what we're going to dig deeper into next week, which will be the new Tonight Show and how Jimmy Fallon is just killing it.
Yes, he is.
Some of the amazing people he's had on. We're also going to touch on the $16 billion purchase, that's billion dollar purchase of WhatsApp by Facebook. And we're going to talk about how the Oscars went, because the Oscars are this Sunday. In fact, if you are on campus or if you want to drive to Winter Park, you can come join us at Full Sail Live and enjoy an Oscar party light. Sit around a table and watch the Oscars with a bunch of very excited people is basically what it is. And the biggest bit of news that I wanted to touch on today is that you, students, kind of like the ones that you see pictured here, are all invited to send in segments for the MCBS Hour. It's a new initiative. We'd love to get your 4 to 6 minute video. And if you want to do a segment for media in the news, if you want to do a segment for meme in the making, or I can't believe this is someone's job, you could even, if you're brave, attempt to do a tool time or a hashtag Be Social Media Savvy. Now, obviously for those, Janelle and Pete will be the ones vetting, and you know they've got very high standards, so be sure to only submit your best work if you want to appear on the Radio Hour show.
With a little bit of pink.
And of course, they'll be pink. And that does bring us to hashtag Be Social Media Savvy with Janelle.
Yay!
And special guest star today.
Yes, we're so excited that we have the DAD student that you heard ask the question a little earlier to Kim Alpert, Katie O'Dare. She owns this lovely little company called Knees on Leaves, and she calls herself the proprietor of Fine Tiny Worlds. So, hi, Katie. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Janelle, and everyone. Oops. Getting situated in the studio.
Yeah, no problem. I know it was. So go ahead and tell us something just really quick about your company and how it kind of started, the real story.
Okay, so the real story is I had a month off of class, and I was kind of sitting around thinking, well, how can I apply all these cool things we're learning in class to a real business, and one where I'm not actually committed to working for a real business because I go to Full Sail.
Right.
I don't have time. But I wanted to do something where I could be fully in control, so I created Knees on Leaves as sort of a practice for, advertising. Right. And then it was super well received and quickly picked up. Within 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 3,000 followers on Instagram.
Whoa, we got to talk about this. Okay, so she launched on Instagram, and immediately, this blows me away, your numbers. So you said within the first 3 weeks, you had how many?
5 weeks, 3,000 followers.
5 weeks. So I think that's insane. I really haven't seen that, especially from someone just kind of starting up something so different and unique. But this is her current snapshot, and I'm sure this has already had a few more hits, but over 9,000 followers on Instagram. And she's only following less than 500. But one of the arrow that's pointing, this is just one image that has 428 likes. Those are the hearts are little likes for Instagram. And then 14 comments on that. So there's clearly interaction that's constantly happening on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have your phones with you, go ahead and check out the feed currently because, actually it has gone up quite a bit. We just announced we're going to be doing a terrarium workshop tour across the country, and the feedback on that was like over 50 comments last time I checked.
That's awesome. So what we wanted to do, because this is obviously the social media aspect, I wanted to start going through all of your social media pages and kind of look at that, because that was impressive. And so your Facebook, since you sent me that snapshot yesterday till today, now it's just increased by 3, so that's great. You have 579 likes on this. And I've actually been watching this, and I don't have your analytics like you do, but I could tell that there's constant interaction here as well. So do you find yourself active on Facebook daily?
Yes, yeah. I'm active on Facebook daily. The Facebook page and our other social media pages we started kind of as an afterthought. We had the store open since May, and I was noticing maybe I should be out on all the other things and save our name on every site. So we started everything else probably in, I want to say October. So it's a little bit fresher,
Yeah.
And I mostly use it for kind of relaying what I'm doing on the Instagram, which is something I definitely want to talk to you guys about today too, is like how can I engage outside of my comfort zone, which is Insta.
Right, and I could tell because you can start seeing we're going to show you the decline, because that Instagram is probably the most amazing one, but it's the one I think you are most active with,
Yeah.
Especially being a DAD student. You're very graphically inclined, and I know the images are beautiful. So the next one is This is Pinterest. Okay, so this one, I was kind of shocked. You only have 35 followers, and Pinterest is something that's very visual. I wonder if you do you post the same amount as Instagram?
You know, I am still learning Pinterest, even though I use it a lot as kind of like a mood board for myself. Like, I mean, even Jiffy Lube, this was an assignment for last week. I'm not particularly like, so I maybe that's a mistake I'm making by having it as a personal life and not just Knees on Leaves as an application. But I do actively pin things that are inspiring me. And from kneesonleaves.com, people can pin items they want to buy.
Which is excellent. Have you checked those analytics to see how many people have pinned from your site?
I have not.
That would actually be pretty exciting, because that actually really helps you see what's going on, because that may not be reflected upon the followers that you have here. But just for all of you guys that are listening, that's something that you can really check on your Pinterest, is not just, especially if you have a business, are they pinning it from your website? But this is something I want to talk to you maybe after the show, because we're pressed for time on this. But the final one was Twitter, and this has 49 followers. You mentioned something which I think you're absolutely right on, and we talked about this in class yesterday as I was showing the students this, just so they can kind of give their feedback. Now, I talk about Twitter more than any other medium in social media because it's probably the most popular out there. People tweet more than they do anything else, especially to communicate either with celebrities or with fans or with companies, you know, whether it's to protest or whether it's to say something great, you know, and it's the one that people get instant feedback from. So a lot of this was actually you throwing the stuff from Instagram. On Twitter, that looks like throw up. And and that's really what it is. And so people don't want to follow that, so they'll completely just tune this out and unfollow, because Twitter, I like to think of it kind of like a different Reddit kind of follower, where they're very loyal if you're tweeting things that are relevant to them, as opposed to just your business. So if you did some quirky, you know, Terranium article that you found that had like really cool graphics, that would be cool to post on here, and not just selling your stuff or showing what you do. I think that's the difference between all the social media mediums. I want you guys to understand that all of them have very different audiences. They all respond very differently. Instagram is amazing. It's visual eye candy. So a lot of people will just like a picture because they like the way it looks. They may not even like Terraniums, but they may just like, oh, that looks so cool. Like, you know, or DIYs are great, especially for Pinterest. So, you know, they all have their own different components that just make it very interesting and compelling. And the Twitter is the one that I saw the first. I was like, it makes no connection. So so that's definitely something that we can talk about and work through. But I wanted to know if anybody wanted to chime in, any of the students that are out there. I know Juliana's in my class this month, and she, and I know that she went over this with us yesterday. But is there anything that you wanted to chime in from any of the stuff that we went over?
Go ahead and do the chat window.
And I also, you know, I wanted to reach out.
Can I ask a question? It's Juliana.
Yeah. Go ahead, Juliana.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm interested to find out, when you launched your Instagram page, what were you doing to get so much attention? Like, what kinds of hashtag were you using? Were you adding people? Did you have people promote you and promote your things? Like, how did that work? How did you grow so quickly?
Well, first, when I started it, it was just me. I didn't have any money to put into it, so I definitely wasn't, like, I didn't have people working for me yet. And I just went through, and I knew that I didn't like seeing a bunch of rows of hashtags when I was going through a feed. I thought it looked cheap and, like, tacky. So instead, I would do maybe 1 or 2 hashtags on my picture, and then go through those. So, like, let's say I just did a simple hashtag terrarium. I would go to the terrarium hashtag and like all the other terrarium photos that I liked, because I figured the people are posting at that time are feeling plants, and I'm feeling the plant they posted. Maybe they'll feel the plants I post too. And it was kind of like this exchange for me to tap into the global plant consciousness by seeing all of those images. And I almost felt by tapping each picture, I was like connecting to them.
That's awesome. I love that you said that, because that really plays on to a lot of what happens in social media, especially Instagram. I remember having a friend tell me, I started Instagram before I even knew people could follow you. I thought it was just a filter thing. So this was way when it started. And one of my friends said, well, I don't want to follow you anymore because you don't like anything. And you don't even follow me. I was like, I didn't even know I could. I was wondering why people were liking the things. I was like, why can anybody see my pictures? Yeah. But that was something that people get really personal about on Instagram. They want you to follow them and like them, and then in turn, they'll like you and follow you.
Well, with that, though, I don't follow people unless I really am engaged with them. And I never did. This is a trick I've seen some people doing. I just don't like it. It makes me mad in a weird way, but when they follow a bunch of people, it just looks so tacky to me. Like, stop it. Like, you have like 8 followers and you're following 2,000. Like, no one likes you, and it's drawing attention to that. It's like, hey, I put myself out there to these 2,000 people, and like only 60 of them cared. But when it's like, when I have the ratio here, it's like, oh, okay, this is like an interesting, like, there's this many people that care about it.
I know Jeanette has a question, so we'll get to that, and then we'll try to close up. Jeanette, go ahead.
Hi. Actually, it was kind of similar to what I wanted to ask, because it has to kind of pertain, kind of similar. I work for the Humane Society of Broward County, and we have these 2 dogs that are like so in love with each other. And as a staff in the adoptions department, we wanted to get them adopted together. So I got the idea to create a video for them, and the adoptions director gave us a week to get this video to kind of get a lot of following and see if we can get them adopted together. So I was kind of wondering what strategy I should use to get this video kind of everywhere.
I have no idea. I'm sorry. That's like when I watch the pitch and the agency's like, we're going to do a viral video. It's like, how are you just going to say that we're going to launch the viral video? Like, you got to, I don't know. I think that's really great, though, and I hope you guys find those sweet dogs some homes.
Do any of us... Go ahead.
I mean, maybe
they're incredibly in love, and it's just crazy that we're trying to get these dogs out together, and it's just, I'm like, come on.
I just had an idea. Okay, so are you familiar with the Tara and Johnny Instagram account? The Olympics, Tara Lipinski and Johnny Weir?
Yes.
Okay, so whatever these 2 dogs are, like, make up 2 names for them that are cute like that and make them an account. And then start liking hashtags under 407 different area codes of Orlando. And then also on a more global level, start liking hashtags of thinking to adopt and canine lover, canine rescue, that kind of thing. And then you can hopefully reach out to a lot of people that are interested in adopting, and just make sure you're providing them with plenty of content and photos and video of the dogs.
She meant hashtag 954 or 754.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I was thinking of Orlando. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeanette, for your question. We just want all of the students to chime in. Does anybody have any suggestions based on what you guys have seen in this brief time for Katie?
I really want to expand out beyond the Instagram is what I'm super hoping for.
So I'd love to get some students to chime in.
Yeah, I guess I have a couple of ideas. Putting myself in your shoes, I think that you really do a good job, showing your product, and you market your product really well, and you take beautiful pictures, and you do have a really cute, good product, right? I think that sometimes what people want to see and how they want to engage with the brand is a more personal level. And I'm not saying like start taking selfies, that works for artists, but not if you're trying to sell terrariums. But, talk about, I don't know, things related to it, and, something that inspired you today, and, I don't know, like a cup of coffee in the morning, and like an inspirational quote, I don't know, things like that I think really help engage. And then obviously as far as the differences between the social medias, I think Twitter is not visual at all, and it shouldn't be, because your followers are going to start getting really annoyed because all they see is like pictures from Instagram instead of you talking to them on Twitter, because that's what Twitter's for. So I think understanding with each platform serves, like what their purposes are and how those people want to be talked to is key to getting to them. And then, the whole point is them sharing you. That's the best kind of marketing,
I love that.
But-
I feel like I've been speaking the wrong language to
Yeah.
Twitter. and this will help open up a dialogue instead of it just...
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job. Thank you so much, Juliana. That was some great advice and suggestions. And I want to thank Katie for joining us in this segment. And we'll definitely be chatting up more, but this is some great examples for Be Social Media Savvy segment. So thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Hey, Kim Alpert actually has a piece of advice for you, Katie. So, Kim, go ahead.
Hey, I've been listening. This is so cool, you guys. There was no social media when I went to school. I was just kind of looking at some of your stuff on Twitter, and I'm a really big Twitter advocate. I think it's such an incredible public forum for conversation. And, I have endless stories of meeting incredible folks, connecting with clients and all that. And I noticed that you're not using any lists. And lists are one of the most powerful tools that Twitter has. And when they rolled out, everyone was like, what is this? What is this for? What does this do? And by developing some really beautifully curated lists, you can connect with your audience in a whole bunch of different levels. You can make a list of like all the different boutiques that carry different terrariums all over the country or the world that you think are really cute boutiques that could be potentially carrying your stuff or that you could be communicating with. And then that also opens you up to all of their followers as well when you start a dialogue with them. So like I have a list called Amazing Humans, and I add people to it when they totally inspire me and I want to communicate with them all the time. Or, I have a list called Great Shops, and like different shops, whether it's audio or video or web or just a really cool store, I add them to that because I think they're great. And I also have a lot of private lists that I use just to segment people that I want to be communicating with more so that I can filter out their stream from the bigger noise. So I'm not sure if you're using a management tool or something like that, a Hootsuite or a TweetDeck, or those are both free options to be able to start looking at lists, but they're super duper useful to start kind of cultivating the conversations that you want to be in and responding to more and more people on Twitter.
That is all awesome new information to me. I am so new to Twitter. I haven't heard of any of this stuff, so thank you.
It is a totally different universe.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was awesome stuff. And
of course.
In addition to reaching out to Katie on some of the social media platforms that you saw on the screen, Janelle, could you share your email so people could send you suggestions that you could forward to Katie?
Absolutely. I'd love that. It's JF as in Frank, ERRER at fullsail.com.
And if any of you wanted to connect with me, it's hello@kneesonleaves.com.
Excellent. That is great news. And that does it for our show. It was a incredible show with some incredible guests. And next week is looking even more incredible. We'll be talking about those media in the news items, and we might even have a little quadcopter discussion. Who knows? But in the meantime, thank you so much from everybody on the MCBS faculty, and you guys have a stellar week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Boom, we're out.